Scott?
First, I'd like to compliment the moderator, Susan Page. I thought she did a nice job tonight. That's number one. Number two, Republicans have been waiting for a good day for quite some time. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news or not, but it hasn't been exactly a banner period for Republicans who are trying to hope for the Trump-Pence campaign to get it together. So Mike Pence came out tonight with a lot of weight on his shoulders. And, yeah, he came out with a lot of weight on his shoulders, and he delivered. Republicans think he did a fine job tonight. Delivering on virtually every substantive exchange. He really, I think, won the exchanges on taxes, the economy, on fracking, on the Green New Deal. I do think Harris scored some points on coronavirus and on health care, so that was good for their side. I sort of look at this through the lens of audiences. I think the audience where the Trump-Pence ticket has been bleeding a bit is senior citizens. And a lot of the latest polls that Andrew was mentioning show seniors going towards Biden. I do think seniors would have liked Mike Pence's performance tonight. I think that's the kind of Republican performance they've been looking for and that they could see themselves voting for, because that's what they voted for in the past. So overall, Republicans are very happy, breathing a sigh of relief that Mike Pence got it done tonight.
Scott, does the race change at all because of this?
You know, I don't typically think vice presidential picks matter all that much, or the debate matters all that much. I do think in this case, as you pointed out, with the I mean, look, Trump's kind of a wounded duck and Biden's no spring chicken. So, I mean, both of these vice presidents' possibilities should matter to people because of the age and the health of their running mates. And so, but politically, historically, these things haven't mattered all that much. Also, look, this cake, I think, after last week and with everything else and the polarization in this race, is largely baked. I don't know how many persuadable voters are left, and if you are left, I'm not sure if watching the vice presidential debate tonight was what was going to make up your mind. I will say this, for wobbly Republicans, for conservative seniors, for some audiences that have been very, very troubled with Trump's performance, Pence, I think, would have shored those up. So it wouldn't surprise me, Anderson, if you do see a little bit of a bounce back in some of this polling from wobbly Republicans or wobbly conservatives who've been nervous about Trump lately.
Although, Scott, I mean, if you were advising the president, the fact that he released a video just a few hours before this debate took place, it does change the topic away from this debate.
Sure. I mean, look, I mean, Trump's made it clear from day one he's the most important person in this administration and in his own campaign. And of course, most voters would agree with that. I do think that it would be smart for them to let this Pence moment breathe a little bit. I did see the president tweeting tonight that he thought Mike Pence did a great job. If I were Donald Trump, by the way, I would be meeting with Mike Pence about how you not just plan but execute a winning debate strategy ahead of his next encounter with Joe Biden.
If you were Mike Pence,
because as he said, yeah. Mike Pence clearly knows how to. You know, one of the things that a lot of people do in debates is try to cram 10 pounds of crap into a 5-pound sack. Trump did that last week. It was too much. Pence brought the right amount to this debate. It wasn't too much and it wasn't too little.
Just the right amount of crap?
And I do think it would be a good strategy to follow.
He brought just the right amount of crap. I'm not sure Pence wants to meet with President Trump. Maybe a call would do at this point.
They have secure video conferencing. They're the president
I've heard.
And vice president.
Okay. I don't understand just the recklessness of people in this White House associated regarding COVID-19.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I mean, I think regarding President Trump next week, if he is still testing positive for COVID, it would not be a good idea for him to travel or be around other people. That would go for anybody that is COVID positive. I'm not sure about the Zoom idea. I mean, I can't imagine two 70-something-year-old men screaming at each other that their mute is on for 90 minutes. But I do think there are ways that you could handle this that would not put people. I'll be honest. When they by the way, when they panned in from behind Susan Page tonight, I was surprised at how many people were in the crowd. I was surprised there were people inside that building, frankly. I mean, what good is an audience when they've been instructed not to clap or cheer or boo anyway? So I am for being careful here, and that's not just because you know, Donald Trump has it. It's because a great many people could have it and not know it. And you've got the president, a potential vice president, the current vice president. I mean, I'm for being careful, and I think there are ways that this could be handled via technology that would respect that.
Yeah, I mean, when you no longer have COVID, when you can no longer, have to isolate yourself, is 10 days from when you first start showing symptoms. Given that President Trump continues to cover up when he actually start getting symptoms, when he actually last tested negative, I mean, would the Biden campaign be in their right to say, look, until you release that information, we're not going to put our candidate on the same stage with somebody who's hiding their health information?
Well, sure they would. If I were the Biden campaign, though, I would expect the debate commission to do that, right? So you don't look like you're trying to find some reason to, to not have this debate. And so I think the debate will happen. I think they will find a way to do this. But as I said earlier, I think you got to be careful with this. I mean, it's not just President Trump. I mean, other people have this. Sometimes people have it and they don't know it. Sometimes people have it and they test negative and then they test positive. So I just think when you're dealing with the leader of the free world, the potential leader of the free world, and all of the staff and people that go along with that, you just have to be as careful as you possibly can. And so my hope is that's what both campaigns and the debate commission decide that they want to do.
Well,
Yeah.
Scott, I mean, look, obviously we are in a news cycle on steroids, no pun intended. But I think that it did matter. I think it mattered on many different levels. My own 15-year-old daughters were super excited to watch it. That matters, that people are engaged. And I know that you think that it did matter for Republicans. I mean, I heard you say that, they have felt that they've needed a win for a while and that last night felt good for them.
Yeah, no question. I mean, in case you guys haven't noticed, it hasn't been exactly the rosiest of pictures over the last several days for the Republican ticket and the news surrounding it. And so Republicans, and I would say a lot of down-ballot Republican candidates were out there hoping for some kind of a good news cycle. Mike Pence delivered on that. He did what Donald Trump didn't do last week, which was to prosecute the case on a number of policy areas where if Trump had slowed down a little last week and not been so overly aggressive, he might have been able to do that. Well, Pence delivered on that when it came to taxes, the economy, Green New Deal, trade deals. The court packing exchange was particularly good. So Pence came in and delivered solid exchanges and solid wins on all of these issues about which the Republicans really want the race to be about. Now, whether this moves massive numbers of voters, I don't know. I tend to view it through the lens of audience. I would think that some of the conservative seniors who've been moving away from the Republican ticket would very much have appreciated Pence's performance last night. So I'll be watching that cohort of voters very closely. I don't know that undecideds are going to look to a vice presidential debate to make their final decision, but certainly Pence gave you a nice, calm, sort of mainstream conservative view about what this ticket's all about.
Scott, I want to start with you and get your take on the non-answers to questions. And in the spirit of the debate last night, if you feel like you have to go back and address something in the last segment, feel free to not answer my question.
Well, Karen and I were on TV about 4 months ago, and I've been stewing on something all this time, and I just want to go all the way back there and address it.
Bring it on,
Karen. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember what it was, but it made me mad. Look, it is an old, it's an old debating tactic to try to avoid answering the questions that don't set up the correct frame, for what you're strategically trying to accomplish. So sometimes you answer the questions at hand. Sometimes, as both Pence and Harris did, they had to go back and try to keep going on a topic that they really felt they needed to win on. And sometimes, the framing just wasn't right, so they wanted to avoid it altogether. And I think a lot of candidates who don't have a lot of debating experience, they get trapped in this, I've got to answer every question down to the, and that's just not the way you would practice on a debate. So I think Pence and Harris both skillfully actually kind of navigated that tactical practice that you would do before you go into a big debate like this.
Let me just let viewers know what you're talking about, just give them an illustration if they missed it. This is a moment where Vice President Pence was asked about abortion and asked about what would happen in his home state of Indiana if Roe versus Wade were struck down. So listen to this moment.
If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members.
What? Scott, what? What was that? I mean,
It's totally connected.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly, I think when you're going into a debate like this, and Karen, and you can chime in if you think I'm off base, but there are certain points that you go in definitely that you want to make. And if the topic moves on before you actually get to make your point, part of the practice would be to go back and try to get in the point if you can. And so I saw both Pence and Harris really putting a lot of effort into that. I actually thought on the pro-life question, Mike Pence ably defended the conservative pro-life position, and he did it authentically because he clearly authentically believes in it. So I thought the rest of the time he did a good job.
Trump-Pence campaign should do today to seize the moment.
They need to continue to sow doubt among the American people about what Biden and Harris say they'll do today versus the positions they both took in the primary and versus the positions that Harris took as a senator on things like taxes, the Green New Deal, the trade deal, USMCA that was brought up last night. She's really got a lot of different positions, more liberal positions. Biden is trying to run a moderate campaign. Her record makes that difficult. So I think if I were the Trump campaign, I would really continue to try to sow doubt about whether can you believe them when they say they want to be a more moderate ticket, given what we see lurking right there in their record.
Of course, one of the big problems. How risky is that for the president to be seen as dodging this opportunity to engage with Joe Biden?
Well, I mean, a couple things. Number one, if you consider that he didn't win the first debate or that it didn't turn out well for him in the polls, it's not risky at all. Number two, if you also consider that there are very few persuadable voters left out there, it may not matter all that much. Number three, I suspect the optics are secondary here, and the concern really is, like we're having a conversation right now. If you guys decide you don't like what I'm saying, you can mute my microphone and you can turn me off.
If only.
So if you have a virtual conversation, I suspect. Please don't. Don't Thanos me. I suspect what Trump is worried about is just the concept of he wants to try to engage, and they, I'll use an industry term, pot his mic down, and then he won't be able to control it. And so I don't know if they're going to have this debate or not, but I suspect that conversation about who's going to be in control of the microphones is going to be front and center.
Gosh.